What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and today we're going to be talking about a crazy discovery in Modern Warfare 2 and how the community might just get the big crossover they've been waiting for. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and let me know down below in the comment section, how do you feel about a crossover between Black Ops and Modern Warfare? Have you been on board with the smallest crossover we've kind of gotten over the last few years between MWII and Cold War? Or would you rather see something bigger happen in a future Call of Duty title? Let me know down below. But very recently over in DMZ, this was discovered, a heart locket, which does say, and I quote, "It has something illegible written within it, and it does seem oddly familiar." And what locket is that probably referring to? Menendez's sister's heart locket, which played a pretty large role in Black Ops 2. We saw it come back as an item you can find over in Blackout to unlock his character. I mean, the heart locket is pretty well known in the Call of Duty community, so right away everybody out there who saw this was thinking about Menendez. Now, what this would mean though is that this Infinity Ward's first actual time addressing the fact that Black Ops and Modern Warfare take place in the same universe, unless you kind of want to consider that Intel and MW19 the first real evidence of a crossover, where they mentioned that Wood somehow went to the Gulag. Not sure how that really works in the canon all that much, they didn't really explain it. Or the fact that Ghost mentioned in some intel that he knows about Requiem and some secret experiments and some secret division of the government. Unless you want to count those references as the first actual time Infinity Ward confirmed the Black Ops crossover, then this might actually be the first real mention. Now, along with that, I still think people are confused by how MW19 is a hard reboot set within the same timeline as Black Ops. That's been confirmed by devs, by Activision, by even Treyarch, not so much Infinity Ward, but people out there still seem to believe that MW19 is a prequel to the original Modern Warfare trilogy. Not sure why that's still confusing, but hopefully I make things clear here that MW19 is a hard reboot that just happens to use some of the same plot points and characters and environments that the original MW trilogy had, but the difference is this time Modern Warfare is set within the same Black Ops timeline. Now what's funny is that back during Cold War we got to see Zakhaev in the campaign, so that right there just screamed a Modern Warfare crossover and confirmed that that was indeed the case, right? The new Modern Warfare series took place in the same timeline. Now what was weird though is that a picture in MW19 does show Zakhaev from back in the day, and that doesn't really match how Zakhaev looks in the Cold War campaign, so that led people to believe that maybe some of the writers across Treyarch and Infinity Ward just weren't on the same page, but some higher up at Activision was the one who kind of orchestrated this type of crossover to confirm that, yeah, everything is set in the same universe. Now, what's also really funny is something I talked about many years ago is Operation Charybdis, where Jonathan Pryce, which is Captain Pryce's father, was set on a mission to go ahead and kill Mason, Weaver, and even Hudson. So when that went ahead and got confirmed via intel, I was like, all right, there is some type of connection there between Task Force 141 or Price, the SAS, with Black Ops, and then it never really got followed up on, but there was a piece of intel in Firebase Z which does confirm Operation Charybdis was indeed still canon. So with that in mind, that could also be a way to help explain why Captain Price is playable over in Black Ops Cold War. Even though it's not mentioned in the actual character selection menu, we could just interpret that as the only way to really explain why Price would be playable in that game. He wouldn't have been nearly as old enough to look like that, but that was just a missed opportunity that I think they could have easily patched up, but it just didn't happen. So for now, I'll just consider that my headcanon to help merge Black Ops and Modern Warfare together a lot more, and to help explain why Captain Price is in Cold War. You could just argue, oh, it's a pre-order bonus or just a free cosmetic, doesn't have to be canon. Sure, that could be the case, since Woods in present-day Verdansk also didn't really make much sense, didn't really get explained too much either. Maybe they'll follow up on that at some point in some future release, but this could also be a new way to introduce us to the Makarov terrorist plot in the new Modern Warfare canon, since we got a post-credit scene from the campaign, which does suggest a new version of No Russian is going to happen at some point. Maybe Menendez is somehow tied to that, you know, knowing him as a terrorist and his connections around the world. Maybe Makarov is kind of tied into that loosely, and that'll be a new unique way they can introduce us to these big villains in the brand new Modern Warfare timeline. Now, at time of recording this, that has not been followed up on at all. There has been no post-launch cinematic cutscene released which follows up on the No Russian plot, so I'm curious if this Menendez teaser over on DMZ could be hinting at the fact that in a future season this year for Modern Warfare 2, we'll end up seeing a crossover of sorts between these characters, or some type of connection that gets mentioned through intel. We'll have to wait and see. Now, we also have this tweet from Killer Stidge over on Twitter, who went ahead and brought something up that you guys might consider a stretch, but it's still worth bringing up anyway. He even acknowledges that this could be a stretch, but let's look at the evidence here. So we have the familiar locket found in DMZ, we have gold skulls and gold bullion bars, we then have a gold mattress and a pattern which closely matches the gold Odysseus Menendez skin which we got to see over in Call of Duty Vanguard. We also have the gold skulls that were given to DMZ influencers, so clearly something could be connected there between Menendez, the gold, something might mean more than meets the eye as of right now. We're not going to know that for quite some time, at least not from what I expect, but this is interesting. I mean, a bit of a fun theory that I'm throwing out there is, hey, over in Blackout, when you found the locket, you had to kill an enemy with a shotgun, one with the melee weapon, then finish the match with that in your inventory. Try doing that again in DMZ just to see what happens, just for shits and giggles. I think that would be pretty funny, but with that being said, maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, if Vanguard has anything to go off of, they have a lot of explaining to do with the current Call of Duty canon. I mean, we had Season 5, which was the last season of that game's life cycle, that featured Menendez, Seraph, Rourke, and Khaled al-Assad all working together. I want to say that's not at all canon to Modern Warfare or Cold War. I don't think we'll ever see a future Black Ops or Modern Warfare even reference Vanguard. I mean, maybe. I would say let's leave that to Zombies in 2024 when that might reference some of the events with the Archon or something. But as of now, I don't see how they could tie those villains in together. That would be cool to get, you know, a long multi-season arc with those villains teaming up, but I just don't see that meaning very much as of right now. But if Vanguard is anything to go off of, then maybe that gold Menendez outfit has something to do with what's going on in DMZ. Now, Modern Warfare 2 took place a couple of years before the Menendez takeover of 2025. I still think there will come a point in time where they kind of just have to acknowledge something in regards to those events. We're getting close to 2025, so even if it's intel or a TV screen somewhere that just mentions the Battle of LA, and then maybe you could say Task Force 141 was in a different country, not in the US at the time, that's why they didn't, you know, serve and protect in LA. I don't know, but I think at this point it's getting harder and harder for the writers or devs to kind of dance around the idea these events took place so close to one another. So we're gonna get to a point where they'll probably acknowledge all of this a lot more, and maybe the post-launch season, at least for Modern Warfare 2, will give us more references to Black Ops to at least confirm, yeah guys, we didn't forget about the crossover, but we're being very careful with how we write our games so that they're not held back in any way by any baggage from Black Ops 2 or another Black Ops experience. Now, what's also fascinating to me is that I kind of got the vibe of another Black Ops crossover from the very ending of the first episode of Raids, Adamgrad. They found a nuke down in that underground facility that apparently aged all the way back to the 80s or 90s. So what does that scream to you? The Cold War, right? So what if that's a Perseus nuke, which would be yet another reference to this whole Black Ops connection? That could mean something. And also, if you look at Greek mythology, right, Perseus and Odysseus had some similarities, right? They were both heroes, but they often fought for different ideals, representing great differences among the people who told their stories. So with that in mind, right, and the fact that Menendez has a nickname Odysseus and a skin Odysseus from Call of Duty Vanguard, then maybe there's a connection between him and Perseus that not even Black Ops Cold War covered, but maybe Modern Warfare will at some point in the future. I think people out there wanted to see more references to Menendez and Black Ops Cold War. We got some connections, some intel talking about him in the cartel, but I think people out there expected more to do with Perseus. That could be something that still happens in the future, and maybe Modern Warfare 2 is really setting that up in ways that we just didn't expect. But how cool would it be if a future post-credit scene of a Call of Duty, whether it's Black Ops or Modern Warfare, showed us David Mason interacting with an older Woods, along with Task Force 141, discussing some connection between Makarov and Menendez? How cool would that be, giving it a real MCU-type vibe? I mean, hey, we have a MCU-style intro for Call of Duty now when you boot up the game, so I think at this point, a bigger crossover is kind of long overdue, especially considering how we're kind of bleeding over into the years of the Black Ops 2 events as well. But what I will end with is this. I do understand the devs or writers from these different studios being very careful with how they cross things over, because again, you don't want to have a situation where they're limited in what they can write for a game they want to make because they have to worry about the canon of a bunch of other games that probably weren't even meant to be canon in one timeline, but somebody higher up at Activision made that happen to the point where Treyarch and Infinity Ward kind of have to work together as a team a little bit to really collaborate on what's going on. And knowing Infinity Ward, which is more of a stubborn studio, let's say, I think it'll be up to Infinity Ward to really bridge the gap better, since Treyarch really has put in quite a bit of effort thus far to do so. I think now Infinity Ward has to kind of meet them in the middle with some type of references or more references in DMZ or Warzone, something like that. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on this crazy discovery, which could be referencing a Black Ops crossover over in DMZ? How are you feeling about what the future may hold for this crossover and everything else we discussed? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.